What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again for another Manchester City video, where today we're going to be doing a Manchester City transfer update. Before I do crack on with this video, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content, do subscribe to my channel. It is free to subscribe. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day with all the latest Manchester City transfer news here on YouTube from June 1st for you guys to enjoy. So if you haven't already, do subscribe. It is free. Social media links, they're in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video. We're aiming for 700 likes. Any help towards that would be great. Also, don't forget to let me know your thoughts as well in the comments below. So we've got no contract news, so we're going to dive straight on in with the outs. We've got the latest on Kevin de Bruyne, and Jack Gaughan has said that whilst Kevin de Bruyne is on international duty with Belgium for the next couple of weeks, he is expected to choose and sign for Napoli in Serie A in Italy. Now, they're the Italian champions. It looks like they've beaten Chicago Fire from the MLS in the USA to Kevin de Bruyne's signature. Paul Hurst has said that Kevin de Bruyne will fly to Italy at some point this week to talk with Napoli. They're working towards a 2-year deal rather than a 3-year deal. However, Fabrizio Romano has said that Napoli are working on a 3-year deal rather than a 2-year deal, where years 1 and 2 would see Kevin de Bruyne earn £5 million net, which is after deduction, so we're looking at around £200,000 a week before deductions for Kevin de Bruyne. That's for the first 2 years, and then for the third year it would be £4.1 million net, which is roughly around £160,000 a week before deductions for that third year. So Kevin de Bruyne currently on around £400,000 a week at Manchester City before deduction, so his wages are pretty much getting halved, and it does mean though that Kevin de Bruyne will be able to continue at the highest level, playing in Europe and playing for a big club in a big league like Napoli as well. Now, we have heard word from Napoli, from their director through Fabrizio Romano, who said that Napoli have been working on a deal for Kevin de Bruyne for months. They've nearly got it over the line. De Laurentiis, who is the owner at Napoli, has said he's spoken with Kevin de Bruyne, with his family, with his wife, with his children. Says that Kevin de Bruyne has already got a house ready to move into in Naples. The deal is close and it should get done. And TalkSport have reported today that there was some interest coming in from the Premier League, despite interest coming in from Liverpool. I don't think they were that serious about signing Kevin de Bruyne, but both West Ham and Aston Villa were serious about signing Kevin de Bruyne this summer on a free from Manchester City. However, TalkSport have said now he is very close to signing a contract with Napoli instead, so it looks like Kevin de Bruyne will continue to play in Sky Blue, but it will be in Italy, in Naples, with Napoli, rather than in England, in Manchester, with Man City. Now, moving on, we've got the latest on Jack Grealish, and Mike McGrath was reporting on Saturday night ahead of Man City's game against Fulham away for the final Premier League game of their season. Jack Grealish had been left out of the Manchester City squad, and there is now doubt that Jack Grealish will be heading to the Club World Cup with Manchester City, with Man City wanting Jack Grealish to seal a summer exit away from the club. Pep Guardiola even spoke about this after Man City's win against Fulham, which has secured Champions League football for Manchester City, about Jack Grealish ahead of the World Cup, and for himself needs regular first team football, needs to up his game, whether that's to be at Man City or another club. He has to do that, and with him mentioning that it could be at another club does very much indicate where Man City's stance is here, and I'm not expecting Jack Grealish to remain a Man City player past this summer. Now, Fabrizio Romano has said that Manchester City are virtually guaranteed to let Jack Grealish leave this summer. Jack Grealish is a homegrown player, which means Man City would need to bring another homegrown player in. Currently, we've got Kyle Walker leaving, Calvin Phillips leaving, and also Jack Grealish leaving. Now, Calvin Phillips isn't a registered player at the moment with Man City, but it does mean with Kyle Walker leaving and Jack Grealish more than likely leaving as well, that Man City will need at least 2 homegrown players to be brought in, whether they be English players or if they're going to be foreign players who are classed as homegrown from being in England for a length of time before they turned to the age of 21. Man City could just simply replace them with a couple of homegrown players from their academy, but It's not really how City do things. City tend to sell the young players on for profit rather than using them around the first team squad, and it's more than likely that if City are going to add some players into their team, that they'll be looking for homegrown players to be brought in instead in other positions. So we'll wait and see what does happen, as Man City are looking for a very busy summer here ahead of the transfer window. So the Telegraph have said that Jack Grealish more than likely to leave on loan rather than a permanent deal this summer. I presume this is going to be down to wage problems, as Jack Grealish is on £300,000 a week at Manchester City. There are very few clubs that can afford that wage, in particular whilst paying a transfer fee. Not impossible, but very unlikely that you'll see the teams that can afford that kind of wage spending big money to bring Jack Grealish in and also put him on a big wage as well. So it's more likely that he would be loaned and then Man City would end up paying some of his wage to help Jack Grealish leave Manchester City instead. And it does mean we could go down the really sticky loan route that we've seen with Calvin Phillips, where if Jack Grealish heads out on loan somewhere and doesn't do very well and doesn't hit it off to start with, all of a sudden, next season again he'll be in a position where he has to be loaned out instead. It all just gets a bit messy. So if I was in charge at City, the way I would be looking at this, if we can't get a permanent deal, I don't think I've got too many problems with a loan deal, as long as Man City aren't paying loads of Jack Grealish's wage, and also there's a good loan fee included. Of course, you'd want a purchase option. I'd like an obligation to buy, even if it's a cheap obligation to buy. I'd like an obligation to buy in there, but I don't think we'll get one. I think it'd be a purchase option to buy rather than an obligation to buy. But it remains to be seen what is going to happen. But a real sticky, messy, sorry situation for a player who has given his all for Manchester City and helped Man City to hit extreme heights, in particular during that treble season. And I want Jack Grealish to succeed. I want him to be as brilliant as he can be, and I think he'd be a big loss to Man City and to the dressing room as well. So we'll see. We will see. Anyway, moving on, we've got the latest on Matheus Nunes, and the Sun have said that Nottingham Forest are interested ahead of the summer transfer window, and Manchester City could be tempted to sell Matheus Nunes this summer if they get the right offer. Man City believed to be looking for around £35 million for Matheus Nunes, which I think is a bit of a low ball. I think it's a bit low in my opinion. We brought Matheus Nunes in for £53 million, and I know he's only got a couple of years left on his City contract, but Premier League proven, he's a good player, he's versatile, he can play right back, he can cover on the flanks, he can go through midfield as well, he'd be helping Nottingham Forest with a European campaign. I think I'd be looking for a little bit more than £35 million. I'd want our money back, £53 million, but I don't think that would happen. But I'd certainly be looking for north of £40 million rather than £35 million. I mean, City could still choose to use this as a bargaining tool to try and get a better deal for Morgan Gibbs-White, but we'll see. Matheus Nunes, still quite young, 26 years old, getting towards his prime, as I said, versatile and Premier League proven. I'd want a bit more than £35 million if I was in charge, but I'm not, so here we are. Moving on, we've got the latest on the ins. We've got a new name, comes in the form of Ardon Jashari from Club Brugge. Now, he's a 22-year-old Swiss defensive midfielder. He was named the Belgian Pro League's player for the season in midfield. He's valued around €35 million. We're looking at just under £30 million at £29.33 million in today's currency exchange. Manchester City are interested and they've made contact with the player's entourage as Man City are looking to potentially try and pursue a deal here. This is all according to Florian Plettenberg, based in Germany, and he said that because Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund are also being linked, and I do feel like this would be a deal that would make more sense for Bayer Leverkusen, who are having their team ripped away and they want the next best upcoming talents, and it'd make more of a sense for Dortmund to be making a move than Manchester City. And I just feel like City's name's being used here to potentially get a better deal here for the player rather than for Club Brugge themselves, because the entourage for Jashari can sit down with the German clubs and say, look, Man City are interested, they're willing to pay X amount in a wage and we want that matching from you guys, because if not, we'll go and talk and we'll pursue a move to Man City instead of you. And it might just get them an extra bit of money, a bit more of an agent fee, a bit more of a bit more wage for the player or something. I can't see City being interested in another defensive midfielder, considering we've got Rodri coming back and touch wood looking very good from his recovery from his ACL injury. We've also brought in Nico Gonzalez in the January transfer window. So I just don't see City going down this route. If it's to be midfielders, I see it being number 8s and number 10s. I mean, can Jashari playing the number 8. I've never seen him play to know this for a fact. I'm just going off the base fact here that he's a defensive midfielder, and I might be wrong, but if he does be brought in, I can see Man City maybe wanting to move somebody else on, and I'm not buying it, if I'm being completely honest. A good player, really good player, doing very well, right age, the kind of profile that City would be looking for, but I don't buy it. Anyway, moving on, Rodrygo. It's gone a bit crazy in the last few days in terms of rumours. Now, Maria GMC, who people have stated that she's an insider at Real Madrid, and as far as I can see, she's a Real Madrid fan with a good-sized social media following, who's pretty much here using guesswork to try and boost some numbers and interaction, and has successfully predicted some transfers in the past, like Mbappe going to Real Madrid, Jude Bellingham going to Real Madrid. I think we could all sit here and predict that. So, to be honest, taking it with very much a pinch of salt here. But she said that Rodrygo's chosen Man City, and Man City have everything in place for a transfer, and Real Madrid want him to leave, and they're going to wish him well on a move to Manchester City. This information's come out before we heard the confirmation about Jack Grealish more than likely being moved on from Manchester City. And I'll be honest, until I get this information from a reliable source that's stating this kind of information, I wouldn't get too excited. As much as I'd love a high-profile signing, I'm sure City would love a high-profile signing. It boosts shirt sales, it boosts interaction, it boosts the numbers for Manchester City, and I can imagine them very much being interested in Rodrygo, but it takes Man City to weed quite a lot out of the club in terms of our first-team squad to make a Rodrygo transfer happen. And as far as I'm aware, City are working on trying to be pretty prudent during this transfer window to go for the next upcoming prospects so they can bring the average age of their squad down whilst having players who fit their wage structure. Now, for every 2, 3, 4 players brought in that fit on City's wage structure, that can afford to break that wage structure and go and spend a little bit more money on a transfer fee and wage like we did with Omar Marmoush in the January transfer window. I can't see there being too many here in the summer transfer window. I can see City going out and signing 4 to 6 new players. I'm not too sure if I see any of them being high profile, but if we are going for high profile, Rodrygo should definitely be a player that City are interested in. As far as I'm concerned, City should be looking at wingers and attacking players, so we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, moving on, we've got the latest on Tijjani Reijnders, and Jack Gaughan's confirmed that Man City are up in their efforts to try and sign Tijjani Reijnders from AC Milan. He said that he is expected to cost more than £55 million this summer. Man City are expected to send in a team to Italy at some point this week to thrash out a deal for Manchester City to try and bring Tijjani Reijnders into the Club World Cup, with Kevin de Bruyne not expected to go to the Club World Cup. Reijnders is a soon-to-be 27-year-old Dutch central midfielder who plays for AC Milan, who's had a brilliant season in Serie A, and he was named, I think, midfielder of the season in Serie A as well. So these are the profiles that City are looking at this summer, players who are very much in form, having very good seasons. Now, Nicolo Schira over in Italy has said that Manchester City are going to be offering in their first opening offer between 55 and 60 million euros, so we're looking at somewhere between 46 and 50 million pounds for their opening offer to AC Milan. AC Milan will reject that, and AC Milan will tell Man City that they're looking for 80 million euros, which is 67 million pounds. So we're looking at a potential difference here of around 17 million pounds, which is a lot of money. Now, if AC Milan don't budge, this deal becomes very difficult for Man City. So I'm hoping there will be room for negotiation, which is why Man City are going to send a team out to AC Milan, because I know the fans are protesting over this transfer. They don't want Reijnders to leave, they want him to stay. They're very unhappy. So AC Milan have been very clear, they want a club record fee for him. Reijnders, though, does want to move to Man City. Already agreed on a 5-year deal, apparently, according to Nicolo Schira, which is worth 8 million euros a year. We're looking at 6.71 million pounds a year, which works out at 129,000 pounds a week before deductions, which does match what I was saying before about the wage structure at Man City, where Reijnders comes in, goes to Man City's bottom of our wage structure, and over the coming few years would work his way up the wage structure to become one of Man City's highest and biggest players at the club. Manchester City looking to try and bring their average wage bill down, and you've heard me have a lot of emphasis on this because it has been released about the 2024-25 season in the Premier League and how much clubs are spending on wages, and Man City are very much at the top of that list. So Man City will be looking to just try and be a bit more prudent in this transfer window to try and get better value for their money. Now moving on, we've got the latest on Morgan Gibbs-White, and Jack Gaughan has confirmed that Man City do want to sign Morgan Gibbs-White this summer. Gibbs-White, of course, a 25-year-old English homegrown central midfielder from Nottingham Forest, and with Nottingham Forest not getting Champions League football for next season, this deal will become a bit easier for Man City to sort. Nottingham Forest have already come down on their asking price of £100 million down to £70 million. We've heard about their interest in Matheus Nunes, which would open up an offering for Man City to go out and sign a right back as well if Matheus Nunes does decide to pursue that move as well for more regular first team football with Nottingham Forest rather than with Manchester City. So it's not a deal that is impossible, but Manchester City just over the last 24 hours distancing themselves from Morgan Gibbs-White, which I find really interesting because we do need homegrown players, and I thought Gibbs-White would have been a gimme, but here we are. Leads us very nicely onto an update on some new players that City have been getting linked with. The first of them is Rayan Ait-Nouri over at Wolverhampton Wanderers. He's a soon-to-be 24-year-old French-born Algerian left-back at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Fabrizio Romano has said that he understands that Man City have made first contact for the conditions to sign Ait-Nouri this summer from Wolves, which is basically Man City asking the entourage of Ait-Nouri, is the player interested in the move? How likely are Wolves to sell? What numbers are we looking at? Which is now Ait-Nouri's agent's job to try and sort a transfer out if the player expresses an interest to leave Wolves and sign for Manchester City. We know City need fullbacks, they need a left back, and this is good news as far as I'm concerned. If it's not going to be Milos Kerkez from AFC Bournemouth, who looks ever closer to joining Liverpool, then Ait-Nouri would be my next choice for a left back. And I'm quite surprised that Liverpool haven't decided to step up efforts to try and bring Ait-Nouri, because he looks like the kind of player that Liverpool would be going for. But here we are. Now, Ait-Nouri's contract is up next summer, but Wolves do have the choice to trigger an extension, which I presume they're going to do, which would mean he has 2 years left on his contract rather than 1. They brought him in from Angers over in France, who have a 50% sell-on fee. Wolves can get rid of that sell-on fee, but they can purchase it out, which is worth £9 million. And I presume with the number that we're looking at here for Man City to make this deal happen, I'm going to presume that Wolves are going to pay that £9 million to make that happen, so they get to maximise this transfer. Now, Jack Gaughan has confirmed that Rayan Ait-Nouri is the fullback that Man City want to bring in this summer, and they are going to try and sign him. He says that there are other positions that City are looking at, but a lot comes down to who's going to leave the club. Man City will look at a right back should Matheus Nunes leave, and they will look at a goalkeeper should Ederson leave, and both these players have got emphasis on. I presume that, considering Jack Gaughan's reported it, City are maybe expecting them two players to leave, so we'll see what does happen. Now, moving from one Rayan to another, moves us on to a nice update on Rayan Cherki and the Telegraph, and it's been echoed by Fabrizio Romano, so we've had some reliability put on this. They've said that Man City are interested in signing Rayan Cherki from Lyon. He's a 21-year-old attacking midfielder who can also play as a winger from France. He's made 30 appearances in Ligue 1 this season with 8 goals and 11 assists and 19 goal contributions in 30 games, and the Telegraph have said that him and Morgan Gibbs-White are the options for Manchester City, with no move being made for Florian Wirtz, who looks like he's going to be moving to Liverpool. Now, Cherki is an option right now, but not 100% the option that Man City want to go for when it comes to helping to replace Kevin de Bruyne. Man City, though, have made contact with Lyon in the last 24 hours to ask about a deal, as Man City are wanting clarification on what his release clause is. The rumours going around is he's got a really low release clause worth 20 to 25 million pounds. I know Spurs are interested, and I know I'll say Rayan Ait-Nouri stinks of a transfer that Liverpool would be going in for. Rayan Cherki very much seems like the kind of player that Liverpool would have been going in for, and if it looked like Florian Wirtz was going to Bayern Munich, which is what I was expecting, I'd have thought that Liverpool would have been all over Rayan Cherki. So for me, he's a brilliant option, be a brilliant contingency that if City do want to make this happen, probably going to have to act pretty quick to make that happen. Really interesting, very much an option this summer for Man City. Don't get too excited about things, because he is just an option. City are still looking at Morgan Gibbs-White. City are going to assess which one they think they're going to get better value for. They do need to think about homegrown players as well. but really interested in something for both Man City sporting directors, both Cherki and Hugo Boss, to be thinking about. Now, moving on to the final transfer of this video, and speaking of City needing to act quick, takes us nicely onto a new name and a new goalkeeper, Joan Garcia. He plays for Espanyol, Spanish, 24 years old. He has a release clause of £21 million. Smells of Cherki, all this release clauses, doesn't it? Cherki and Garcia, smells of Cherki being in charge here. He loves the release clause, and we thought he was going to have one last dance with one last release clause back in the January transfer window with Nico Gonzalez, and here we are in the summer transfer window, very much doing the same. Now, Joan Garcia has played 38 times in La Liga this season. He's got 8 clean sheets, conceded 51, has helped Espanyol to stay in La Liga. And don't look at it and think, oh, he's conceded 51 times. He's not very good. He's a really good, solid goalkeeper. One of the hottest prospects when it comes to the goalkeeping market. Aston Villa, they've got to replace Emi Martinez. They're linked. They're interested. Arsenal are interested. Barcelona are interested. Man City's hat very much out there as well. But Relevo in Spain have said that Man City, they have an agreement in place with the player, and it's up to Joan Garcia now to decide on what he wants to do next. Manchester City will make a move for Diogo Costa from FC Porto should Joan Garcia decide that he doesn't want to sign for Manchester City. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, how are City going to make it work? Because I do have some reservations about Joan Garcia. As much as I rate him and I think he's a quality goalkeeper and exactly the kind of profile that City would be looking for, I would be looking at Joan Garcia and I'd be thinking he's got no Premier League experience. He's got international football experience, but that's only coming from the Spain under-21s and below from there, so the under-18s, under-16s, etc. He's not a Spanish international as of right now. I want him to have that experience because he's going to come in, he's going to be playing Champions League football, he's going to be playing at the top end of the Premier League against quality teams week in, week out. He's had some great experiences with La Liga, but I'm just thinking to myself, he's going to need a season or two to adapt. And in an ideal situation for me, I would want Joan Garcia to come in as the understudy to Ederson, learn from Ederson for a season. So Joan Garcia would be our goalkeeper, putting pressure onto Ederson, trying to challenge for a spot, getting games whenever Ederson's not fit in the Premier League and Champions League, ready and waiting that in 12 months' time, Ederson would leave Man City and Joan Garcia naturally just takes over as the first choice keeper. That's why I mentioned in my last video, if you want to go and check it out when I was speaking about goalkeepers, that if Man City are letting Ortega leave, then that's why I'd be looking at Joan Garcia, because I think Joan Garcia would be a player that's going to need a little bit more time to develop. Whereas you come in as a number one, you start making mistakes and everyone's going to grill you for it, and it's very difficult. Goalkeeping positions, they're very difficult. So to me, if we do bring Joan Garcia in and we end up losing Ederson and we end up losing Ortega and we're going after a new number two, I'd probably look towards, rather than an inexperienced number two, I'd be looking towards bringing in a number two who's got plenty of experience, who's maybe closer to the end of their career, just a player who City can really rely upon. That you know, if we need Joan Garcia to go out and learn from somebody, we've got somebody who can just ready to take over the reins there. So goalkeeping situation has to be managed carefully, and in an ideal situation, I'd like at least one of Ortega or Ederson to stay, just so we've got somebody who's we're all comfortable with for at least another 12 months, rather than, you know, the two best goalkeepers leave and 2 new goalkeepers come in. It can be quite daunting, quite difficult. Still got no word as well from Scott Carson about extending for another 12 months. So we may need 3 new goalkeepers. Crazy. Ortega's been linked with a move back to Germany. He's been linked with a move onto the continent in Europe. He's been linked with a move to Belgium. Ederson's strongly linked with a move to Saudi Arabia as well. So yeah, I spoke about goalkeepers anyway. If you want to go and check it out in my last video where I looked at 5 goalkeepers City could target for the summer transfer window. And throughout the remainder of this week, of course, going to have transfer updates for you guys, but I'm also going to be looking at other players that City could be targeting in them crucial positions, including at fullback, in midfield and out wide as well. So do stay tuned for that. Plenty of transfer content coming for you guys over the coming week before we go daily from June 1st with my Manchester City transfer updates. I'll see you all for that and all the updates in between as well. So don't forget, subscribe if you are new around here. It is free to subscribe. Don't forget as well, social media links, they're in the description if you want to go and follow me on my Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video. We're aiming for 700 likes. Also, don't forget as well to get your thoughts in the comments below. And I'll see you all real soon for the next one. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.